Happy Sunday, rooters! I know you haven't seen me in a while, and for those of you who have not been keeping up, I was recently trying to play the latest entry in the Story of Seasons series, the remake of Grand Bazaar, and essentially when I was trying to run the game at OBS at the same time, the computer would just kind of log up a lot of times. It'd be completely unresponsive, which obviously meant that I couldn't really stream it. So after a few attempts of trying to do anything I could to get it to work, I had to give up on it. Oddly enough, after I quit using OBS and trying to stream it properly, it never had any issues again, so it's clearly some kind of conflict between the two programs at the same time. I don't know what it was, but if I just play the game by itself, I never have any issues with it. I also tried an experiment one week of doing a Discord screen share to see if I could do like a private stream that way, because at least people on our Discord server could watch me play. That didn't work either. Not because there's any kind of conflicts, it didn't crash. And Discord said everything was good to go, it showed the preview, it said I was streaming. But every time someone tried to connect to the stream, they just said it would just infinitely load, and the stream would never come up. So the game was just cursed as far as having enemy watch me play it, which is unfortunate, because it ended up being a really good game. So for some context, I had a very low bar for this one. I guess you could say I had low expectations coming in for two reasons. One, I played the original Grand Bazaar on the DS a while back, and I don't remember liking it very much. Also, I'm just coming off of the remake of A Wonderful Life, which I also didn't really enjoy that much, sadly. Not these are terrible games, they just kind of weren't for me, so I figured this is going to be more of the same. But what I got was very much the opposite. In fact, I would say that this is one of my favorite games in the entire series. It was really that good. And I'm going to do a little bit of a short video review, kind of talking about all of the things that formed that opinion, why I liked it so much, all the things that I did like, and just kind of an overview, so you could at least get that, since I wasn't able to do that live with people watching me play it. So for starters, let's talk about some of the mechanics. One of the core mechanics of this game obviously revolves around the bazaar, which makes it very different than any other Story of Seasons game, and pretty much every other farm sim I've ever played. So, the difference is normally in farm sims, you have like a shipping bin right outside your home that you put all your items in, and then when the day passes, they get sold and you get your money automatically every day. Pretty much a, frequent income that you can rely on as long as you're producing stuff. In Grand Bazaar, you do not make money daily. You could only make it by selling at the bazaar every Saturday. So you only get a once a week chance to make any income, which can be stressful sometimes. If you basically buy a bunch of stuff and blew through all your gold on the bazaar day, and you need something during the week, oh well. And that's kind of thing that had me a little apprehensive. I'm not used to that style, and I have limited experience in these kinds of games with selling stuff directly to NPCs, and they're usually not very good. The two times I've done it before was the Wonderful Life remake, where there's an optional thing where you can go to town square and just kind of set up a little stall, and if an NPC wanders by, you could sell to them. But it is so random and infrequent that it pretty much does not work. I'm assuming that one is a little rough because of the fact that the game wasn't built for that. So there's not like any kind of generics that are just generated to buy from you. A better example would be in Rune Factory 4. You could also set up a little shop from the castle window, and it does spawn generic NPCs to buy stuff as well as the villagers. That one flows a little bit better, but it still can be, you wait there for hours since there's no specific time window. There's some skills related to the bartering, but it's still a little messy. Grand Bazaar is kind of the most refined, at least this version of it, is the most refined version of that mechanic because the game is built exclusively with that in mind. It's not like Rune Factories kind of has somewhat of a system, but it's not built for that. You can still ship in stuff. A Wonderful Life, you can still use the shipping bin. This game is trying to push the bazaar mechanic as its core mechanic, so it has to be developed and fleshed out. And they do that in a number of ways, which is kind of hard to explain without just, having played it. It's hard to wrap your mind around it. But there are a lot of villagers that are, or actually tourists, I guess you could say, like just the generics that kind of come by to flood the market and buy stuff from you to kind of make it so there's not just a bunch of dead space all the time. They also have a little bell you can ring to get their attention to maybe like increase the chances that they go to your little shop and buy stuff from you. And then there's the cheer time mechanic, which I'll get into in just a moment. But a lot of these things are ways to help it kind of flow better. Another thing is that you have little decor that give you buffs and bonuses. And some of those could, make the product sell for higher than they're supposed to. So you make some more money that way. Some of them are just to attract the villagers to the stall to buy stuff. Some of them will make them buy more items at once. There's a whole bunch of different things. And the cheer time has like the same bonuses as well. So what is cheer time? Well, there are nature sprites in this game. And they're maybe one of the most beneficial nature sprites I've seen in one of these. Close contender is the Friends of Mineral Town because they kind of work your farm for you. But they can be kind of a hassle to use sometimes. This is a very simple system. You give them gifts, usually like items you don't really need too much anyway. You kind of throw away stuff to build up the levels for how much they benefit you. But even without that, they still have kind of a base benefit. And what happens is there is kind of a meter that builds up every time you sell stuff. And if that meter rises enough, then you get one of nature sprites that get added to the cheer time. And there are, I think, 5 of them? Let's say 4. I think there are 5 of them in all. And you basically can either use anywhere from like 1 to 5, however many you build up. There's a second, the other shoulder button from the regular bell is the cheer time bell. And it automatically goes into this new mode where you kind of zoom in. And instead of having like people walk around and come to a specific item, it just places one item on the counter. An NPC will automatically go to your counter and guarantee buy that real quick each time mash the action button to sell. And it's like kind of like guaranteed bonus time sell thing that the more sprites you have, usually the longer it lasts, and the better bonuses you have to get like maybe more money from it or faster sales or whatever, the bonus that they all have. Each one of the sprites have a different bonus. One of them is even extending the time so that you have that mode last longer. Because there's a limit time. And the best part is that the in-game time does not tick during this. Because you have a limit time when you'll sell each day. The first morning bazaar is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then you get like an hour break. And then the end of it is from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So you basically get like an 8-hour work shift with an hour lunch kind of thing. They kind of emulate in the real world there. But that's kind of a structure. So let's say you're like getting down to the wire. It's like 1:50 p.m. You're not going to sell through all your stuff. Right at that last minute is a great time to use the cheer time. Because then you get some free extra sales that would not have normally counted. And if they're kind of just scanning half the thing, but don't quite get there for you to like sell to them, and time expires, oh well, you lose that sale. So it's really good to just spam cheer time. Well, not spam it, but use the cheer time at the very end, before it's just about to end anyway. Or if you're just running low on items, you just want to sell them real quick to give yourself more time to shop. Because you can only shop during the bazaar window. If you try to go before the 10 a.m. start, nobody's going to be open yet. They're still setting up their stalls. So you have to delay yours and not sell stuff right away. To browse everything, browse in that little hour between 2 and 3. Or if you like sell out everything early, then you have extra time to kind of browse the stalls. And then everything closes at 7, so you obviously, for the second half of the shift, don't want to linger too long. But yeah, it's a kind of fun little game to match all that and to like make it all work out. Make sure you have, I guess, maximize profits, sell as many items as you can, and then still have, enough gold to buy the stuff you want from the other stalls, which, as you progress through the game story and get higher bazaar ranks, you can unlock more stalls for other stuff to be sold there, which can be very beneficial. And even the existing stalls have new inventory over time at different bazaar ranks. So the game really encourages you to use this and rank up. It's the only way to progress the story, and it's the only way to get new cool things that will help your own farming, actually. Some of this stuff is like really good stuff that makes your gameplay more smooth and, beneficial, like a lot of little benefits. Also, there's like fun things like cosmetics. You can create new outfits if you unlock the stall that is the tailor. But yeah, that's all the cool stuff you can do. And if you are kind of in this weird point where you're in the middle of the week and run out of money and have stuff to sell, but it's not bazaar time, you don't have to completely worry about that, because there is one general store in town, McGillis General Store, that is open, I think, every Monday through Thursday. So as long as it's one of those days and it's within the operating hours, you can just go to his store and sell back to him. It's not the best thing to do, but if in a pinch, you can get some extra money by doing that, so you're not locked into the bazaar. But the bazaar is the only way to increase the bazaar ranks, obviously, because those sales don't count toward that, which progresses the story. And once you get enough decor and nature sprite bonuses, you're going to make more money by selling in the bazaar than you would by selling for the base price to Miguel. So that's a couple things to keep in mind. Like, the bonuses are really good toward the end. Like, I could load up maybe 70,000 gold worth of products, just if you go by the base sale price, and end up selling over 100,000 in gold profit instead, which is like a, 30,000 gold increase from what it would have been just selling it directly to a shop. So those bonuses do add up over time. So that's kind of the main thing about the game with the bazaar mechanic, but there's a lot of other little cool things that are, either quality of life stuff or mechanics they borrow from other games. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of that too. So let's talk about one of the really neat things when it comes to your tools is, in most games in the series, you have like an axe for chopping wood and a hammer for breaking down stone or collecting ores, right? Well, this game said, why don't we just combine the two into one? And they gave this kind of like hatchet tool, which just, does both. And it makes a lot of sense, because there's not a lot of difference mechanically from gathering wood and gathering stone. So just having one tool to do the both is a really good idea, and I'm glad they went that route. Let's see. One of the things that a lot of recent games in the series have been doing is having a very simplified system for herding your animals, where they would have a bell outside somewhere, but usually just right outside the barn or somewhere on your field, that you can ring to automatically call them in and out. This is something that I think first started in Animal Parade. It is also in Tree of Tranquility, and it kind of disappeared for a while. But in recent games, I think it was the Story of Seasons Friends in Mineral Town remake is the first one I think brought that back. And then that persisted into Pioneers of Olive Town. The Wonderful Life remake also had that, so it seemed like that was maybe the new trend. And I was okay with that because I think that's the superior way to handle it. This game didn't quite do that, which was surprising. They did not have the universal bell. Instead, they went back to an older system of a hand bell that you just ring It used to be a tool you have to have in your toolbar. This is just an shoulder button is dedicated to it. I think it's the actually trigger button. I think it's like R2 that you have to hit to ring that bell. I could have mistaken. It seemed like R2 or L2. It's one of them. But whichever one it is, that calls the animals to you within a certain radius. It's not perfect because sometimes you have to ring it more than once if you don't get all the animals, if they're too spread out. It's a little bit of a mess. But if you are leading them and getting to follow you and you walk towards the door, either the exit or entrance, depending which way you're going, they will just automatically go out once they get close enough. So it works a little bit better than it does in the really old games. I still don't prefer it, but I give it a pass only because of this next thing that they did, which is they brought back the pet herding mechanic, which I think is from Trio of Towns, the only game I've seen this in. But basically, you'll get a cat and a dog. One of each guaranteed in the store. You can buy more if you want. And those will herd your animals for you. The cats herd all chickens, and the dogs herd all of the other animals. And there is also a training mechanic where if you train them up, you get certain training levels. And the higher their training level, the more animals they can bring in and out each day. I think in Trio of Towns, some more tied to affection. This one's just tied to the training level. And you can train them every day as long as you have a pet tree. So, really simple way to kind of... Once you get that going and get the level up high enough, you get to a point where you don't have to worry about your animals. Like, I think it was still like year 1, maybe like autumn, I want to say, where the cat and dog were just taking care of everything, and I didn't have to worry about it. So... the fact that it didn't have the good bell and had the weaker bell version, I didn't mind. And even with the weaker bell, at least I didn't have to shove animals outside the barn like you would in older games. So that's still good. It's still a little bit of an improvement, and the pets make it way better. And speaking of training, one of the grievances I had with A Wonderful Life's remake is that you could train your dog to do tricks, and it had absolutely no purpose at all. I don't know why it was in there. I kind of felt like I wasted a lot of my time doing it because the dog doesn't do anything. The training level doesn't mean anything, even though it has like an actual progress tracker. It does nothing in the game, no functionality. There are no competitions or anything. It's just to do to waste time, I guess. Obviously, because of the herding levels, the training does have an effect on your pets this time, so I'm glad about that. And as a bonus, they even have the pet contest again. So that's a double purpose it has, which is really good in my book. And horses count as pets too. While they don't herd animals, you do have horse derbies of sorts. It's not like a race like Friends of Mineral Town, but it's more of like a points competition. Like you have to jump over hurdles and collect items and stuff like that. But it's good to see the horse having a competition again as well. In fact, that's one of my favorite things about this game is they have lots and lots of competitions and festivals. I felt like a lot of the recent games were starting to dial back on that and kind of making them very bland, where like you have like maybe one get together every month for just talking to NPCs, but it didn't really have any value. The game started taking away stuff like the harvest festivals and competition to see, oh yeah, I'm doing a really good job as a farmer. Let me show you that with how good my crop is. Like a very big draw of this type of game, and they took away the competitions for that. And they took away the, pet contest and the animal contest and all this other stuff. And it felt like it was really like stripped down. As much as I love the crafting system of Pioneers of Olive Town and a lot of like the farming mechanics that it has, it felt very boring as far as it came to festivals and events. And I'm glad to say that Grand Bazaar's remake is the complete opposite. It has tons of stuff to do every, season, you would say. You have harvest festivals, you have like tea ceremonies, you have like different gifting festivals, you have the animal shows, you have the pet competitions, you have the horse derbies. There's just so much to do, and I love it. It's great. So, That's another reason why I like this game a lot, is because they put a lot of focus into that. Let's see, what else? As far as the actual farming itself, I have no real complaints. It's pretty, standard for the series. They do have an interesting mechanic where if you jump and use a tool, the tool's range extends. And this also goes with planting stuff, since that's not a tool. So if you want to sell your seeds, you have to jump and do it for like a whole row. And then if you double jump, you can kind of, do more of an extended one. And I didn't get to buy like some kind of upgrade from the Nair stall to like make it an even greater effect for it. But basically you can get your standard 3x3 that you're used to if you upgrade all your stuff correctly. And I think you need to do a double jump and then do the sewing button. Because I think by default, single jump is like 1x3 and double jump is like maybe a 2x3. And the upgrade makes it a 3x3 with a double jump. And then your tools, mostly based on the tool level is how far they go. But also like the jump and the double jump does extend them further beyond that range as well. So that still comes into play. Which luckily you can kind of upgrade your tools yourself. You don't have to go to like a blacksmith or anything. Which I don't mind that, but there's always the, well, if he's closed the next day, you might not get your tool back for longer than you expected. So that's always a problem. Upgrades in this game are exclusively done through windmills. There's 3 windmills in the game. One that starts on your farm, one in town, and one kind of outside of town. And you have to progress through the story to get those unlocked. But they are kind of what you do for almost all your crafting. You can make seeds from crops eventually at the blue one. You can make a bunch of different products, byproducts and stuff from either your crops or from the animals. Like that's how you make your yogurt and butter and cheese and stuff like that. The mayonnaise is all made from the windmill. Your tool upgrades are all done there. And a bunch of other things you can make. You can actually make accessories from gems. Like basically all the stuff you would do normally at a blacksmith is kind of done from the windmills. And it does take time. And the stronger the wind is blowing, the less time it takes. So it does have that effect. If you ever have like a hurricane or a blizzard, the wind is very intense. But the benefit to that is that everything kind of finishes producing very quickly. So that's kind of fun. And speaking of those natural disasters, this game is the nicest about those. Because there is an item you can craft at your windmill called a wind screen. And if you make enough wind screens and put them up around your fields, it will protect them from one hurricane/blizzard. And there's a weather report that tells you the weather like 3 days in advance. So you are well prepared for, if you look like you check your radio, you will be well prepared for those events to come. So all you have to do is make a bunch of wind screens, put them up on every field that you have, and it also has to protect, I think, like there's like these mushroom logs for growing mushrooms, and there's like a flower field you can do to get honey from the bees. Those have to be protected as well. But if you protect everything, then when the blizzard comes, you just lose the wind screens, you just make more and put them back up. And you'll never have to worry about your fields taking damage. So, honestly, the hurricanes and blizzards are things I look forward to, because they just mean better production time and no loss. So that's kind of cool. I do appreciate that. So I think that's most of the mechanic stuff. I'm probably overlooking something, but I don't know. If I think of it, I'll mention it again later. But the last thing I want to talk about is the villagers themselves. I obviously do not really play these games for anything but the farming. That's kind of my big draw. If you know me, you kind of know that. So the date sim aspect of these games is not something that I care about too much. And half the time I'll just kind of ignore it and not even worry about interacting with anyone. I just want to keep to myself and farm. But I'll have to say that this game has quite a few good options for the bachelors, in my opinion. Like, even I'm like, oh, I'm actually really into that. which is kind of rare. So I'm going to talk about some of the ones that stood out to me. So first up, we have Derek over here, which, look at his design. He's got this like kind of almost red mage looking outfit on, which is really cool. And his personality is, maybe not my first choice, but I don't dislike it. He seems like a fun-loving, easygoing guy, and not in an annoying way either. Like, there was a guy, I think his name was like Rock or something, who is kind of sweet, a laid-back, kind of lazy guy that is kind of his archetype. But I don't know, he just seemed a little too carefree and irresponsible. Whereas Derek is not like that. He's actually pretty responsible. He works a job at the cafe, and he's actually, like, at some point there's like a whole storyline with him and his brother, which I'll get into. I'll show you his brother next. But him and his brother have this interesting little storyline going on where he wants to help out. So he learns how to cook by asking the cafe manager to teach him. And then he, like, tries to, relieve his brother's burden by cooking some of the meals sometimes. And it's really a nice little storyline they have. Like, even the stuff that's not just, like, one character specific for the date storylines. There's all this cool story just of interactivity between two villagers and their own stories that are going on. And that's one of the things I really like about this game. Because usually you have like, almost nothing going on, or the only story is just when it relates to your character and their relationship with that character specifically and their own personal stories. But now they have, like, interconnecting stories that mingle with one another. And the two brothers, Derek here and his older brother Jules, have this cool little story going on with their relationship, which is really touchy. They have, like, a little bit of a disagreement at some point, but they do work past it, and it's really sweet because you can tell they both really care about one another, and they're just not really conveying it properly, I guess. But yeah, here's Jules, the older brother, which he looks very dapper. I love this design. He's kind of a bookworm and a scholar. Somewhat more mild-mannered. I do really like his personality, and that's kind of one of the ones I got drawn to the most, and probably one of the NPCs, or I guess you say bachelors, that I interacted with the most, because I really did like him a lot. Next up, we have another one that I got a little bit surprised by, is the merchant Lloyd. Because he didn't stand out a lot right away, but as I got to, like, interact with him more, I'm like, I actually kind of like him too. He's just kind of this, nice guy who isn't too abrasive. He's down to earth, and I don't know, I find it comforting. So I interact with him a lot too. There's also always what I think is the fan favorite here, Gabriel the painter. He's alright. I think the first three I chose, or I showed you, I like a little bit better. But there's nothing wrong with Gabriel either. And I think a lot of people like him. And there's a couple others, but those ones don't really, like, stand out as much to me. Just because they're not my style. Like, I don't have a picture of him right now, so I didn't prepare it. But there's a martial artist guy, Arata, who kind of just feels like a meathead a bit. Where all he really thinks about is training. And he doesn't even know why he's training. And he's kind of scary, honestly, to me a little bit. So, I don't, like, interact with him as much. And then, like, he's kind of paired off. Well, not paired off, but he's got a friend, I guess. It's a complicated situation between those two characters, but there's another character called Shamir, who's very standoffish, and he kind of frightens me too, so I kind of stay away from him too. Oh, but that does remind me of a feature I did forget. There's this really cool feature where you press down one of the trigger buttons. I don't remember which one it is. It's the opposite one that the bell is used from. But there's like kind of a mass greet, where you have kind of this area of effect. You kind of wave and say hello to everybody in the area, and it counts as talking to them. So it's a really easy way to kind of, if you're running around in your town, you don't have to stop to talk to everybody just to get the greeting in. You can just press that button and keep running, and they'll count as saying hello to them, which is really cool. And it makes it a lot easier to go get your daily keep talking to the villagers requirement to advance their friendship levels. So they do like that, and it comes really in handy for festivals, because in most festivals, everybody's just gathered around in town square for it, so you can kind of walk around and like 2 or 3 uses of it will get every single village. So that's cool. But anyway, back to what I was saying about the characters here. If you are more interested in the bachelorettes, the female characters, I don't have a lot of commentary on that, because obviously that's not what I'm looking for. But I did think that some of the female villagers are interesting still. Like, I do like them, even though I wouldn't pursue them. Like, some of the ones that stood out to me was, first of all, Sophie, who is the mayor's daughter. I don't know, there's something about her that's just really charming. She's kind of like has bright and sunny demeanor. And, I don't know, she seems like somebody I could get along with really well. I'd be very good friends with her, I think. And then another one I didn't expect to like as much as I ended up liking is June here, who is kind of this sort of emo personality, which is why I'm surprised I liked her as much. But despite her kind of also seeming sort of standoffish and sort of emo, she's very charming, actually. And when you get to know her, she's very nice. She's into arts and crafts and likes to like making things for people. I don't know, there's something about her that just really, like, I like. Also, on Bachelors, I had to talk about the mayor. So, for anyone who has played these Story of Seasons games, you might know something about the mayors. Even though they do have different designs from game to game sometimes, it does kind of feel like they're all the same character. Like, this is basically the mayor of any given game. Like, look at them, they're pretty much almost all the same. Other than Hamilton having a slightly different design, I guess. They all tend to be short, older guys, usually rotund, sometimes with a hat and or a mustache. They're just the same guy. And they're not very interesting personality-wise either. They tend to always be those kind of like bumbling sort of well-intended kind of guys. They sort of remind me of the mayor of Townsville from Powerpuff Girls in their personality. And I don't know, I never really cared too much about them. Then we enter Felix. Felix is a very different mayor. While he might have glasses and a hat, he is not a short mayor, at least. He's actually really tall, like very tall. He's a large man. And at first appearance, kind of scary. Because he's a very bold and brash, well, I don't know brash, but he's a very bold and loud and boisterous personality that can make you like, oh no, I'm afraid of this guy. But you quickly learn that he has a heart of gold. And he's definitely not that guy at all. He's very, very good. And you learn to love him. He's very funny. And I just love his enthusiasm for everything. While most people watch this probably will not get this reference, he reminds me of Antonov from King of Fighters. And just being this, like, kind of large, goofy man who is, very kind-hearted, despite being very loud and very bold and very boisterous. That's kind of my summary of him. He's very enjoyable. Easily the best mayor they've ever made. Obviously, he's the most unique one in design and in personality, and it really shows. And I don't know, I really like Felix. That's all I can say. He's a great guy, and the main plot of the game is kind of his story. As you rank up the Bazaar levels, you kind of advance his storyline. And it's worth it because I really like his story. You really feel for him, and it's really nice to see how it all plays out. But yeah, that is basically my assessment. Why I like the game, there's very few criticisms I have. Like, there are maybe a couple of things that, like, Olive Town did that I like better. As far as, being able to handcraft stuff and have, like, the makers rather than have a window system. I do like that better. And I do love the scooter that they had in Pioneers of Olive Town, which never returned again in anything. But then again, everything they made sense with a remake, so that part doesn't fit, King. So while I wouldn't say that Grand Bazaar is a perfect game, it's still like one of the best ones I've played. I like it a whole lot, and it's only missing a few things that would keep it from being like perfection, which I don't think they're gonna get in any remake anyway. The only way they're gonna really get a perfect game is if they take most of the stuff that they have in Grand Bazaar, as far as like the quality of life stuff that they added to it to make it better, and build a brand new game that kind of combines also the stuff they added that was new to Olive Town, and kind of keep the spirit of Grand Bazaar as far as like the characters and the story and all that, and the interactivity, the events. And we keep that part of it, and then maybe add some new stuff if they want to kind of enhance it further. But like, you basically had to build a new game, but use this one as inspiration, I think. But anyway, that is what I think of the game, and I hope that I will be able to go back to streaming soon, once I select a new game to start playing. So I will see you then, and I hope everyone has a good rest of your day.